Imagine a globe the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, crafted from the finest materials costing a fortune to produce, sitting in the most powerful office in Nazi Germany. This wasn't just any globe, it was Adolf Hitler's personal window to the world he dreamed of conquering. This massive sphere stood in Hitler's study in the new Reich Chancellery in Berlin. It showed him every continent, every ocean, every nation that stood between him and his vision of a 1,000-year Reich. It was there when he planned the invasion of Poland, there when he celebrated victories across Europe, there when he drew a pencil line along the Ural Mountains marking the future boundary between Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. And then in April 1945, as the Red Army stormed Berlin and the Third Reich collapsed in flames and chaos, this globe disappeared. For nearly 80 years, historians, collectors, and treasure hunters have been asking, what happened to Hitler's globe? Did Soviet forces take it as a war trophy? Is it hidden in a vault somewhere in Moscow? Or was it destroyed in the Battle of Berlin? Several globes have surfaced over the decades, each claim to be the one. Some bear bullet holes through Germany fired by victorious soldiers. Others have mysterious markings and questionable provenance. One was found in Hitler's mountain retreat and sold at auction for $100,000. But the massive globe that stood in Hitler's office, the Columbus Globe for state and industry leaders, the one made famous by Charlie Chaplin's parody in The Great Dictator, has never been found. Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of Hitler's missing globe, a story that combines Nazi megalomania, Cold War secrecy, and the enduring fascination with artifacts from history's darkest chapter. To understand why this globe matters, we need to understand what it was and what it represented. In the mid-1930s, as Hitler consolidated power and began preparing Germany for war, he commissioned something extraordinary. He wanted a globe unlike any other, massive, detailed, expensive, and worthy of the Führer of the Third Reich. The contract went to the Columbus Verlag Company in Berlin, one of Germany's premier globe manufacturers. They were tasked with creating what would be officially called the Columbus Globe for state and industry leaders, but what everyone would come to know as Hitler's globe, or the Führer globe. The specifications were staggering. The finished globe would stand approximately 1.3 meters in diameter. That's over 4 feet across. To put that in perspective, it was nearly as tall as a person and about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. The base was constructed from expensive hardwood. The globe itself was hand-painted with meticulous detail, showing political boundaries, ocean routes, and geographical features. But here's what made it particularly special. It reflected the geopolitical changes that Hitler was engineering across Europe. Unlike standard globes of the era, Hitler's version showed Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia, as part of Italian East Africa, reflecting Mussolini's 1936 conquest. It was a globe that showed the world as the Axis powers wanted it to be, not as it was. The cost was enormous. While exact figures aren't available, the Columbus factory and its archives were destroyed in Allied bombing raids in 1943. Historians estimate it cost tens of thousands of Reichsmarks, equivalent to hundreds of thousands of dollars today. Actually, Hitler ordered 2 of these globes. One was designated for the Nazi Party headquarters, made from standard wood with no special modifications. The other, larger, more detailed, more expensive, was made specifically for Hitler's personal use. In 1940, this massive globe gained international fame, though not in the way Hitler intended. Charlie Chaplin released The Great Dictator, his brilliant satire of Hitler and fascism. In one of the film's most iconic scenes, Chaplin's character, the dictator Adenoid Hinkle, plays with an inflatable globe that represents his dreams of world domination, tossing it in the air, cradling it lovingly, until finally it bursts in his face. The scene was a direct parody of Hitler's well-known globe. The Three Stooges also mocked it in their shorts, You Nasty Spy, and I'll Never Heil Again, where the dictators play keep-away with a globe. But while Hollywood was mocking Hitler's globe, the real thing was witnessing the planning of actual world conquest. In 1938, Hitler decided that the old Reich Chancellery wasn't grand enough for the capital of his expanding empire. He commissioned his favorite architect, Albert Speer, to design and build a new Reich Chancellery that would awe visitors and reflect the power of Nazi Germany. Speer delivered. The new Reich Chancellery was completed in early 1939 in a feat of rapid construction that Hitler had insisted upon. It was a monumental building with a massive gallery twice the length of the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles. Hitler's personal study was enormous, designed to intimidate visitors who had to walk the length of the room to reach his desk. And there, in that study at the heart of Nazi power, stood the globe. Photos from the era show the globe in various locations within the Chancellery, though curiously, and this is important, there are very few photographs of Hitler actually with the globe. As Polish historian and globe specialist Wolfram Pobansens has noted, if the globe had truly meant something special to Hitler, who controlled all photographs of himself, there would surely be more pictures of him beside it. This has led some historians to suggest that Hitler wasn't particularly attached to the globe emotionally. It was a status symbol, a piece of impressive decor, but perhaps not the object of deep personal meaning that legend suggests. However, there is one documented instance that shows Hitler did use the globe for strategic planning. In 1941, Albert Speer recorded in his memoirs that an army adjutant pointed out to him an ordinary pencil line that Hitler had drawn on his globe at the Berghof, his mountain retreat, running north-south along the Ural Mountains, marking the future boundary between Germany's and Japan's spheres of influence. This chilling detail reveals that Hitler was already envisioning the complete conquest of Europe and the division of the world with his Axis partners. The globe wasn't just decoration, it was a canvas for planning global domination. Throughout the war years, as Hitler's empire expanded and then contracted, the globe remained in his office. It witnessed strategy sessions, diplomatic meetings, and the increasingly desperate planning of Germany's final days. Then came April 1945. By April 1945, Nazi Germany was in its death throes. The Red Army had pushed from the east, Allied forces from the west. Berlin was surrounded. The Third Reich, which Hitler had boasted would last 1,000 years, was entering its 12th and final year. On April 20th, 1945, Hitler's 56th birthday, Soviet artillery began the bombardment of Berlin. The city would endure 2 weeks of some of the most intense urban combat in military history. Buildings were reduced to rubble. Fires raged across entire neighborhoods. The streets became battlefields. Hitler spent his final days in the Führer bunker, a reinforced concrete shelter beneath the Chancellery garden. On April 30th, as Soviet forces closed in on the Chancellery itself, Hitler committed suicide. On May 2nd, 1945, Soviet forces fully secured the Reich Chancellery. The building had been heavily damaged by artillery and aerial bombardment, but it was still standing, and among the first Soviet officials to enter and inspect Hitler's personal quarters was one of Stalin's most powerful and feared henchmen, Lavrentiy Beria. Beria was the Soviet Minister of Internal Affairs and head of the NKVD, Stalin's secret police. He was a brutal, calculating man who had orchestrated mass murders, purges, and deportations. He was also a collector. When Soviet forces conquered Nazi territory, Beria often claimed valuable items as personal trophies or had them sent back to Moscow for Soviet archives. And this is where the trail of Hitler's globe begins and ends. Historical accounts suggest that Lavrentiy Beria was the first person to enter and inspect the Reich Chancellery after Berlin was captured by the Red Army. Given his position and his known habit of claiming valuable Nazi artifacts, it's widely theorized that Beria took Hitler's globe. Some believe that he could have taken the globe to Lubyanka, the infamous KGB headquarters in Moscow, but the KGB and FSB will not deny or confirm this belief. Think about it from Beria's perspective. This was one of the most iconic Nazi artifacts in existence. It was massive, impressive, and symbolically powerful, a physical representation of Hitler's ambitions and the Nazi defeat. It would have been a perfect trophy for Stalin's regime. There are several reasons why the Soviets might have wanted it. First, propaganda value. Displaying Hitler's globe in Moscow would demonstrate Soviet victory over fascism. Photos of Soviet soldiers with captured Nazi artifacts were powerful propaganda tools. Second, intelligence value. Any markings, notes, or annotations on the globe might reveal strategic information about Nazi planning or Axis coordination with Japan. Third, personal trophy value. Beria was known to collect valuable items from conquered territories. A globe from Hitler's personal office would have been an ultimate prize. But here's the problem. The Soviets have never officially acknowledged having the globe. Soviet records from the immediate post-war period are incomplete. Many documents were destroyed, classified, or remain sealed even today in Russian archives. The FSB, the modern successor to the KGB, has consistently refused to confirm or deny whether they have Hitler's globe in their possession. Why the secrecy? Several theories exist. Some historians suggest the Soviets might have been embarrassed by their looting of German cultural property. While they publicly condemned Nazi theft of art and artifacts, Soviet forces engaged in massive trophy brigades that systematically removed valuable items from Germany and sent them to the Soviet Union. Admitting to having Hitler's personal globe might have opened uncomfortable questions about other looted items. Others suggest more sinister possibilities. Perhaps the globe was destroyed accidentally in the chaos of Berlin's fall. Perhaps it was stolen by a Soviet officer for personal gain and sold on the black market. Perhaps it's sitting forgotten in some warehouse in Moscow, mislabeled or unrecognized. Or perhaps, and this is the theory many researchers find most plausible, it's deliberately kept secret in FSB archives considered too sensitive or politically problematic to acknowledge. In the Cold War and post-Cold War era, the Russians have been notoriously protective of their trophy archives. It took decades for them to admit they had Hitler's skull fragments, which were later proven by DNA analysis to be authentic. Many Nazi documents and artifacts remain classified. If they have the globe, they're not telling. But wait, didn't an American soldier find Hitler's globe? This is where the story gets complicated. In May 1945, just days after the war ended in Europe, a 28-year-old U.S. Army soldier named John Barsamian entered the ruins of the Berghof, Hitler's mountain retreat near Berchtesgaden in the Bavarian Alps. The Berghof had been Hitler's beloved vacation home, where he spent considerable time when not in Berlin. Allied bombing had devastated the site, and by the time Barsamian arrived, other soldiers had already looted most of the valuable items. But sitting on a desk amid the ruins was a globe. Barsamian took it, along with a pistol and a dagger, boxed it up, and shipped it home to Oakland, California. He had all the proper military paperwork certifying it as an authorized war trophy, including a certificate that read, "One global map, German, Hitler's Eagle Nest." For over 60 years, Barsamian kept the globe in his home in Oakland's Redwood Heights neighborhood. He didn't display it prominently. He rarely talked about it except with close friends. His son Barry grew up with it in the house, occasionally glancing at it while practicing piano or doing his geography homework, though it wasn't particularly useful for homework, since all the labels were in German and it had bomb damage holes. Then, in 2007, after beating cancer and losing his wife, Barsamian decided to sell the globe. He was 91 years old and wanted to share the story while he was still alive. The globe went up for auction at Bonham's in San Francisco. It was expected to fetch between $15,000 and $20,000. Instead, it sold for $100,000 to Bob Pritikin, a San Francisco entrepreneur and collector. The price reflected the intense interest in authentic Hitler artifacts, despite the ethical concern such collecting raises. But here's the crucial question. Was this Hitler's globe, the famous massive sphere from his Berlin office? No, almost certainly not. The Barsamian globe measures about 46 centimeters high and 33 centimeters in diameter, roughly 18 inches tall and 13 inches across. It's marked as manufactured by Columbus on October the 1st, 1941. It has several blue, green, and red marine signs written in German, possibly indicating submarine routes. This is far too small to be the massive Volkswagen-sized globe from Hitler's Chancellery office. Most experts, including historian Wolfram Pobans, believe this globe could have been one of the smaller versions ordered for the Führer to use at various locations, but it's not the iconic globe from the Reich Chancellery. Hitler did maintain residences in multiple locations: the Berghof, the Reich Chancellery in Berlin, the Wolf's Lair in East Prussia. It's entirely plausible he had multiple globes for different locations. The Barsamian globe is almost certainly authentic, a genuine Hitler-owned globe, but not the globe. So where is the big one? Over the decades since the war, numerous globes have surfaced, each with varying degrees of authenticity and claims to being Hitler's personal globe. There are at least 3 globes in Berlin museums, one Ankara Geographical Institute, another at the Brandenburg Museum of History and Culture, also called the Marcher Museum, and a third at the German Historical Museum. Two more reside in public collections in Munich. Others have appeared in Poland and elsewhere. The globe at the German Historical Museum is particularly interesting. It's a large Columbus globe with a distinctive feature, a bullet hole right through Germany. For years, this was believed to be Hitler's actual globe, with the bullet hole added by a victorious Soviet soldier making a symbolic statement. Photos from 1945 show Soviet soldiers posing triumphantly with a large globe in the chancellery, and one soldier appears to have shot it. This created the assumption that the globe in the German Historical Museum was the authentic one. But in 2007, cartographer and historian Wolfram Pobans declared that the globe in the German Historical Museum is not Hitler's personal globe at all. After extensive research, Pobans concluded that the unique base design suggests it actually belonged to Joachim von Ribbentrop, Nazi Germany's foreign minister. Pobans's investigation was hampered by a crucial problem. We don't know exactly how many of these special globes were produced because the Columbus factory and its archives were completely destroyed in Allied air raids in 1943. Without production records, authentication becomes extremely difficult. Many of the globes that have surfaced show signs of contempt from Allied soldiers, bullet holes, scratches where Germany was wiped out, or other forms of symbolic destruction. These actions, while understandable given the circumstances, have made authentication even more difficult. Some globes are obvious fakes or reproductions made after the war to capitalize on collector interest. Others are genuine period Columbus globes but were never owned by Hitler. They were standard productions sold to businesses and schools. The problem is that Columbus made many large, high-quality globes during this period without definitive provenance, documentation connecting a specific globe to Hitler's personal possession. It's nearly impossible to be certain. And this brings us back to the fundamental mystery. If none of the globes that have been found and examined are definitively the globe from Hitler's office, where is it? After nearly 80 years, we're left with several possibilities about the fate of Hitler's iconic globe. Theory 1, it's in Russia. This remains the most popular theory among historians. Soviet troops were the first to enter Hitler's Reich chancellery after the Berlin offensive ended on May 2, 1945. Smersh officers conducted inspections searching for Hitler's tracks and important documents. Lavrentiy Beria, one of Stalin's most powerful officials, personally oversaw the inspection. If Beria took the globe, it would likely have ended up at Lubyanka in Moscow, possibly in the FSB's classified archives. The fact that Russian authorities refused to confirm or deny having it adds weight to this theory. Their silence could mean they're hiding something. Russia has a long history of keeping captured Nazi artifacts secret. They only admitted to having Hitler's skull fragments decades after the war. Thousands of looted artworks remained hidden in Russian archives until the 1990s and beyond. Some are still held in secret. If the globe is in Russia, we may never know until political circumstances change dramatically or archives are finally opened. Theory 2. It was destroyed in the Battle of Berlin. The Reich chancellery was heavily damaged during the battle for Berlin. Artillery bombardment, aerial attacks, and close-quarters combat destroyed much of the interior. It's entirely possible the globe was damaged beyond recognition or destroyed completely. Large globes are fragile. A direct hit from artillery, fire damage, or structural collapse could have shattered it. In the chaos of combat and the immediate post-war period, the pieces might simply have been cleared away as debris. This theory is unsatisfying because we want these iconic artifacts to have survived, but it may be the simplest explanation. Theory 3. It was taken by someone else. Berlin in May 1945 was chaotic. Soviet soldiers, American soldiers, British soldiers, French soldiers, journalists, and local Germans all moved through the ruins. The possibility exists that someone other than official Soviet authorities took the globe. It might have been claimed by a Soviet soldier as a personal trophy and later sold or hidden. It might have been taken by a Western journalist or military officer who happened to be in the chancellery. It might even have been salvaged by a German who worked in the building and is now sitting in someone's basement, its significance unknown to current owners. Theory 4. It's mislabeled or unrecognized. Perhaps the most frustrating possibility is that the globe exists but isn't recognized as Hitler's, It might be in a museum collection mislabeled as a standard Columbus globe. It might be in storage somewhere, its provenance forgotten or unclear. Without the Columbus factory records, which were destroyed in 1943, authentication is extremely difficult. If the globe lacks distinctive personal markings that clearly connect it to Hitler, it might be indistinguishable from other large Columbus globes of the era. Theory 5. It never existed as we imagine. Some revisionist historians suggest that the legend of Hitler's globe has been exaggerated over time, amplified by Chaplin's parody in popular culture. Perhaps the globe in Hitler's office wasn't as large or as special as legend suggests. Perhaps the various globes we've found are exactly what Hitler had, and our expectations have simply outgrown reality. This theory is less popular because photographic evidence clearly shows an impressively large globe in Nazi offices, and the Columbus Company definitely produced these special editions. So what happened to Hitler's globe? The honest answer is we don't know. Historians have been interested in this question for over 80 years, though there are several versions and multiple copies of this historical relic, each claiming to be authentic. But which one is the real one? The location of Hitler's personal globe is currently unknown. The most likely scenario remains that Lavrentiy Beria or other Soviet officials took it from the Reich Chancellery and sent it to Moscow, where it sits today in some classified archive, its existence neither confirmed nor denied by Russian authorities. But it's also possible it was destroyed in the Battle of Berlin, taken by an unknown individual, or exists unrecognized in a collection somewhere. The mystery of Hitler's globe represents something larger than just a missing artifact. It symbolizes all the secrets, trophies, and evidence of Nazi Germany that disappeared in the chaos of 1945. So much was destroyed, so much was hidden, so much was taken and never returned. The globe also represents Hitler's megalomania, his literal attempt to hold the world in his hands, to view all of humanity as pieces on his personal game board. That such a symbol of arrogance and evil has vanished seems almost poetic. The man who wanted to conquer the world couldn't even hold on to his own possessions. Perhaps somewhere in Moscow, in a secure vault deep in the FSB headquarters, Hitler's massive globe sits in darkness, a silent witness to the rise and fall of the Third Reich. Or perhaps it was shattered decades ago, its pieces swept up and thrown away like the regime it represented. Until Russian archives are fully opened, if they ever are, we may never know. The globe that showed Hitler his dreams of empire remains lost, just like those dreams themselves, destroyed, hidden, or scattered to the winds of history. Thank you for watching. If you found this mystery fascinating, please subscribe for more deep dives into World War II's unsolved mysteries. And let me know in the comments, do you think Russia has Hitler's globe hidden away? Or was it destroyed in Berlin? I'd love to hear your theories. Until next time, remember, sometimes history's greatest artifacts aren't found in museums. They're lost to time, leaving us only with questions and legends.